This is a good panel. I am excited. I know all three of these concepts fairly well, so we're just going to get right into it. We're leaving about 10 or 15 minutes at the end for questions. So if you've got them, just raise your hand early and I will try to get to you. Geoff Alexander, you're leaning into ITSA technology in the partnership you have with them. How does that affect the design of your units, or how has it changed the design?
So for those of you who don't know, thank you, good morning, by the way, and thanks for having me. If you don't know the ITSA technology, there's a group out of San Francisco that started a fully automated restaurant. They grew from 1 unit to 7 and subsequently have knocked themselves back down to 2 units, and now they are licensing their technology. It is order via iPad, mobile phone, either Android or iOS device, and then there's a wall of cubbies where once you place your order, your name comes up on a screen, and when your order is ready, it tells you which cubby to go to. You double tap on it, the door opens up, and you grab your food. So you literally do not need human interaction. We keep someone out front who's a concierge who will answer questions, and what we found is instead of having a cash register where you get a bottleneck and then a pickup area where you're throwing food to the guest, now we have hospitality because we can just talk to the guest and talk about their day, and they can do their whole interaction on their own. What we've done with the design for it is the hardest part for us has been we've shrunk our box, but we need to find where to put these kiosks. And you want to put them not right next to the door because then you don't have a queuing section, and you can't put them too far into the restaurant because people don't know where to go, right? There's no human interaction. There's no cashier yelling, come here, come here. So this has been, a point of contention for us, but we think we figured that out. The best part for us is that we've been able to shrink our box. The next thing that we have coming up that we're working with ITSA is, I'll use a Starbucks reference here, since everyone probably drinks Starbucks. If you order on your mobile device and you go to Starbucks, you go to your pickup area at your local Starbucks and you never know which drink is yours, they have created a shelving unit that lights up with your name on it. So if a third-party order comes in from Uber Eats, Grubhub, whoever, we can take that order and stick it on the shelf. The driver can just come in and see their name, take their food, and go out with it, as well as people who are ordering ahead. So we're excited for that aspect. We will be not using the cubbies going forward. We have 3 stores with those cubbies, and we're going to switch to this shelf model.
I've been to your store on Michigan Avenue. You have, at the time, I think there were 4 or 5 kiosks just right after it opened. You reduced the number of kiosks. What's the thinking behind that?
So we opened the first store that we opened with these technology, we opened up with 6 kiosks for people to come in. We have 12 cubbies, 6 kiosks, and then we shrunk it down to 3. The reason why is, as you all know in the restaurant, you want a bit of a wait, right? You want to create that there's energy, there's people in the restaurant. We also are able to, because you can order on your phone, is if we do get a backup, we can just tell people to download the app. The benefit of having the 3 is it now creates more energy in the restaurant. The other thing about this technology is every person gives us their email address at the completion of their order. So now we're able to market to them. We had the polar vortex in Chicago recently, if you all saw, was minus 50 degrees or some ungodly number. And we were able to send out an email the Friday after the cold, when we were closed for 2 days, saying come in and get $5 bowls. So we have this email database that grows exponentially every day. We also are able to get all this data because of everyone. We have their email address and what they're ordering. So we know if you buy A and B, your retention or return rate is going to be 2 or 3 times higher than if you ordered B and C. So we're able to manipulate the menu now to really sell what we want to sell at the right price point and the right profit margin to ensure that we're getting as many guests coming back as possible.
And Geoff, I'm on your email list because I did patronize your store.
Don't unsubscribe.
and before the vortex, I got the email that you're going to be closed, which is great. It kind of gave me some insider knowledge.
I sent the email, not great that I was closed.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
Exactly.
Just making sure.
Robert Thompson, Punch Bowl Social. Congratulations. Just named one of Fast Company's innovator, restaurant innovators.
Thanks.
Let me get that right. Most innovative companies is what you were listed as, so congratulations. In that article, you mention, unlike Geoff, that human interaction is crucial to your concept. How do you bring that about in your stores?
Yeah, you know, it starts with the market. Well, it starts with programming and the way that we modulate and design, but it's sort of the end of it is an opportunity for us to market ourselves and suggest more social, less media, right? We live in a world a lot of synthetic relationships. You don't see a lot of real, interaction. These are all digital experiences that folks are having online with pseudo friends. We put these large format spaces together. They're programmed in a way that 10 tops or groups of 500 can come in and spend time activating around bowling or private karaoke rooms, bocce, a dart technology that we're about to implement. These are opportunities for folks to do that, sit around, enjoy a large format punch together, it's a unique experience, right? Where we are tapping into millennial and Gen Z desire to have experiences, right? And so we find ways to activate around food and beverage and these experiences in a large format environment in a very design-forward manner.
And how do you do that? Are there design elements that especially appeal to that? Instagram, whatever?
Well, it results in a highly Instagrammable setting, but we try to be a little careful about being too contrived, and setting up too many of those that, follow the dotted line, stand here for your Instagram moment, right? So you just try to create it effectively and organically throughout the venue. But so, we brought design in-house, seven folks about a year ago. So we have architects and interior designers inside on the team. And, it's an iterative process because we all work together every day. It's not, having 2 or 3 different architects of record and design groups that we spend time with. It's all of us just sitting around in a workshop, coming up with the right formula and magic to put together, a company that again is designed forward, but takes a lot of pride in figuring out those elements naturally.
And another Denver-based concept, Red Robin Gourmet Burgers. Denny Marie Post, you are transforming your dine-in only restaurants to accommodate delivery, to go. What are the biggest challenges and what are you thinking about as you transform those?
Great. Well, good morning, and again, thank you. It's always great to learn from folks who are doing such interesting and different things. I represent up here what happens when you have an existing asset base of almost 600 units as opposed to where these gentlemen are is very much in growth mode and able to work, refine, and define before they go forward. So we are in the casual dining space, and if you remember, casual dining was created to be between you and whatever else you were doing, and that was typically shopping or perhaps going to a movie or some other kind of entertainment event. And what, of course, has occurred is people are increasingly doing that at home. So they're consuming, we talked about it, Roma on Netflix rather than going out to see it in the movie theater, and they're shopping online while they're doing that. So less and less folks out and about taking advantage of casual dining. But they still want restaurant quality food. So what we're working to do is to transform our units so that we can accommodate carry out, to go and carry out, which is either Geoff comes and picks it up himself on the way home, or Robert here gets Grubhub or DoorDash to basically pick it up for him. It's the same process, right? It's invisible to us in terms of, or less important to us in terms of who does that. So you have to take a lobby, and you have to both accommodate the guest who wants to be seated and also the guest who wants to grab and go. And we're finding that to be a real challenge, particularly as that off-premise business grows. So we're trying to push out to the curb. We started in the most rudimentary way and now are investing more to be able to anticipate, use cameras, those kinds of things to be able to anticipate the person at the curb, particularly for moms who frequent our concept quite a bit with kids. Once they got the kid, any of you all have small children, once you get them in those car seats, the last thing you want to do is get them out before you get home. So curbside becomes really, really important for us. But the other thing that we're having to transform is the capacity for production. We have a rapidly growing catering business, and we have kitchens that are designed to make single meals. And so thinking about how we use our space differently or flexibly to assemble large catering orders is also becoming an interesting challenge for us. So I would describe them all as challenges. We're all in the state of working through alternatives, and where casual dining was once one unit, basically recreated, and about 65% of our base is exactly the same model. It's increasingly becoming important to individualize those solutions. You can't do curbside everywhere. You have variable catering demand. So we have to go into each unit and think about how to reconfigure it to accomplish doing both dine-in and off-premise.
And when your team goes into each unit to assess that, what kind of information is good for you to get from them in making the decision down the road?
It's really important to look at how quickly the mix is shifting, how quickly the business is building to assess what kind of demand exists. Really important to look at peak hours, not just in our traditional way, which is in the casual dining or dine-in, guest kind of fashion. But, interestingly, even peak hours for dine-in, obviously, the same folks generally want to eat at the same time. They just want to do it somewhere else. So we have to really think about scheduling and peak hour demand, and again, how do you accommodate the maximum number of folks at those peak hours? So knowing what your peak hours are, catering tends to be more off-peak, which is helpful, but really understanding that is critical, as well as what the restrictions are. We have obviously a lot of challenges we have 485 round number company-owned units and about another 85 or so franchise. Working through each of those leases, they didn't always anticipate when they were originally signed what we might need in terms of curbside access or the ability to bump out and do another entrance. Those kinds of things have to be worked through.
Red Robin and Punch Bowl Social are both based in Denver,
Yes.
and I know you guys have had a meeting. You are downsizing your units from 25,000 square feet to now there's an alternative for smaller markets. Can you tell us what the thinking is there?
Sure, I wouldn't call it downsizing.
Okay.
That's going to get
Not
quoted.
a
That's going to
good,
get
it's not a
quoted.
good word when you're getting started.
Yeah, it's going to get quoted by somebody in this audience. It's going to show up in print, and my board is going to call me and say, "We're doing what?"
So an alternative.
Yeah, that's right. So look, this is 100% about increasing the white space for us. It's not about a flaw in the larger format. In fact, the large format we believe is still our best growth vehicle. Ultimately, when you have great markets like Salt Lake City and Fort Worth, there are potentially, West Palm Beach, just north of here. These are great markets that we can't justify the full investment for a Punch Bowl Social large box, maintain our return on invested capital ratios. So in order to get to what we believe is the fully addressable market for Punch Bowl Social, we needed to find a way to lower the CapEx going into these new units, new markets, and shrinking the box from 25,000 square feet to 12,000 to 15,000. It allows us to deploy less capital. We believe ultimately it's going to nominally increase margin because occupancy costs will be lower. The way that we are programming that or deprogramming in some ways is if we have 3 and sometimes 4 bars inside of a Punch Bowl Social, we'll bring that down to 2. We also will take out the traditional full-sized bowling lanes and replace them with duck pin. And then we're finding other very efficient ways to activate through the gaming that still drives revenue, like a dart technology that we're bringing into play, which does automated scoring for darts, similar to what happened back in the 50s when bowling went from pencil and paper scoring and fuzzy heads after a couple of beers to it all just being done for you naturally. So, but the food and beverage offering is identical.
What is the one thing in providing this alternative, more white space version? What's one thing you can never give up in the design or the image of Punch Bowl Social?
What's the one thing we never give up?
Yeah.
Yeah, so, we'll always be a scratch kitchen. We as long as I run this company, we'll never institutionalize our food. That makes sense for some concept models, but not for us. We have a millennial and a Gen Z audience that demands a scratch product. We'll never deviate from our craft beverage offering. And at the end of the day, and the two things I just listed are components of it, but we will always remain authentic. And finding a way to disseminate and articulate our authenticity to our guest is paramount. It's the filter that we put everything through in this company. We're very brand-focused, brand-oriented, and we must maintain an organic relationship that is authentic with our customer.
Geoff, one of the things we talked about as topics that were top of mind for you are labor. How does design of your unit, how does that impact labor?
So we have the ability to run our restaurants right now with literally 2 people per shift, somebody in the back of the house and somebody in the front of the house. Prior to using this Eatsa technology, we were running 2 or 3 people a shift, so we don't have a huge labor savings, but we do have the ability to run with a very small number of people on the staff. What's more important than the labor dollar for us is, although it's a very tech-focused concept, my team doesn't like it when I use this word because it's a very silly word, but I coined it anyway, is hospitality, right? We're using hospitality and technology, and how do we use that technology to give better hospitality? I spoke earlier about if you go to a restaurant and you order at the register, and there's 4 or 5 or 6 or 8 people behind you waiting to order, your experience isn't always the best with that cashier, right? Because they sort of rush you through. And when you go to pick up your food at the expediter, at the pickup area, 10 other people are waiting for their food, and sometimes the food can get thrown at you. So what we've done is by putting that person out front, we're able to really just talk to you and give good hospitality and answer questions and check in with your day. And if you're listening to your headphones or on your phone or on a phone conversation, we don't have to interrupt you, right? You can just come in and do what you want and get out. The ability to be able to operate a restaurant with 2 people really comes down to making sure the kitchen is designed correctly, right? Every time we build a kitchen, my goal is to knock down somewhere between 18 inches and 2 feet each time we're building another kitchen. How do we shrink it? How do we shrink it? How can we use less equipment to still put out the same amount of product? So we can make that box fit better and also make it easier for that one individual behind the scenes to be able to put out the product quickly and efficiently.
Well, on behind you, Geoff, is a photograph of a unit. When I went to the unit, there was a person devoted to helping the individual navigate the kiosk system. At one point in a lifespan of a restaurant, can you take that person away?
That's a good question. So this is our second store that opened up with this technology. It opened up in July. And you can see, maybe you can see it, to the left of those cubbies, to the right of where it says live steam, there's a hole in the window. There's a hole in the wall. What we found is people want to be able to see the kitchen, right? They're worried, like, who's making my food? Is my food being made? So after we came up with this great wall at our first store, that's very cool technology, well, then we had to blast through the wall now and show that there actually are people in there because everyone asked us about that. Nobody actually looks, but it's there for comfort for them. As far as when do you give up that person, I don't have an intention to give up that person out front for 2 reasons. One, you're always going to have a new customer, at least you hope that someone new is coming in. And secondly, I do believe that adds to the hospitality factor, that person being out there. We consider ourselves a very social company. We consider ourselves social between our interaction with our employees, the way we market ourselves. We want our restaurant, this is taken right at opening, right? So now there's literally 22 seats in the restaurant, just so you know that. But we want to be a place where you can hang out with free Wi-Fi and enjoy good music and sit with us. So that person out front is very important to who we are and what we're trying to do. The advantage that we have is if a lot of people come in at the same time, that person could step to the back of the house and help put the food out, and we could still operate without somebody up front. But I do think having someone out front to interact is very important for the concept and for the restaurant business as a whole.
You tried Red Robin Express. You have pulled that now back just to Denver. What was the thinking and why did you do that?
Well, the original intent was to try to find a way to take Red Robin, particularly into urban markets. We've traditionally been a classic casual dining, suburban located environment, and the thinking was that we could compete with fast casual burgers that were coming up and have the opportunity to open up markets, the kind of white space Robert was talking about, in a different way. So the original thought was go into urban markets, scale down the menu, and go to a counter service model and allow the guests to essentially order our best burgers, but then rely more on self-service elements.
And how's that turned out?
Not well. Not well at all. One of the first things I did when I had the opportunity to step up to CEO 2.5 years ago was close down virtually all of them. They were not doing well for us. The guest expects something from Red Robin, and that is some level of service. We also found that it was essentially a one-day part business for us, lunch. Very difficult to make enough money in that one day part to be able to deal with the occupancy challenges and costs that we saw in those urban markets. So, the opportunity just wasn't there to drive a dinner business. And again, we're a 50-50 lunch dinner business, which is unusual for casual dining. Casual dining tends to lean more toward dinner and less so at lunch, but we've always been known as a place you could get it in and out of quickly, even with the full service element. So we've retrenched. We have one left in Denver. It is in our hometown. It's a good opportunity for us also to learn about catering and opportunities in urban markets that may or may not take the form of ghost kitchens or stealth kitchens or opportunities to cater. People love our catering opportunity. Our burger bar is very popular, but it doesn't mean that we have to have a guest-facing unit to do that.
And speaking of ghost kitchens, I was talking to Geoff last night. Your experience with Ghost Kitchen, can you kind of share with the group here how that went and why you pulled back?
Sure. We opened up a ghost kitchen or cloud kitchen, for those of you who don't know, is basically a building that has a kitchen inside of it with no storefront whatsoever. Sorry? Production only. Production only, yes. We opened one, or we joined a cloud kitchen in Los Angeles late in 2017. So we're Chicago-based. We haven't done anything outside of Chicago at the time. We had 1 or 2 airports and universities that were run by a different group, and this was our first venture. So we opened up 3,000 miles away, 200 square feet with no management. You can only imagine how that went.
Well, and no awareness either, right? Yeah.
Right.
You tried to market entry strategy that way? Yeah.
And as I said, I run my current restaurants with 2 employees. Well, this was being run with 1 employee, and you have LA traffic, which means that the employee was always late to work. When you deal with these cloud kitchens, you get your orders are all coming in from third parties. The setup of the idea of it was absolutely fantastic. They had a central dispatch where all the orders came in. All the drivers would wait in this holding pen, and then your orders would be shot into whoever kitchen the order was designed for. And the problem with that is the third-party delivery systems have an algorithm, for those of you who don't know this, and they say that you need to accept the order within 8 seconds when the order comes into your restaurant. The average restaurant is 16 seconds, but to be at the best model to get the most business from the algorithm, you need to accept within 8 seconds. So what we were having was LA traffic with 1 employee, the employee being late to work, and orders are coming in. No one was accepting the orders, so the algorithm kicked us lower and kicked us lower and lower. So in the beginning, when we were at the top of your Uber Eats app, when you opened up, we're now like on page 4, and nobody scrolls to page 4 when you don't have a storefront in the city when no one knows who you are. So it didn't work for us for that regards. The idea of it was fantastic. We are looking right now in the New York City market, and we know of 2 or 3 groups who are looking at doing the same idea there. If we decide to sign New York, we are considering doing this, maybe for catering or central distribution of delivery. I know some people who are using this idea strictly for catering, that they use these kitchens to produce all their catering so it doesn't affect the store level business. So there's definitely benefits to it. but it's very important that you understand how the third-party business works and the algorithms involved with it if you're going to go down the road.
It's a great lesson, I think, right there. Robert, you are dealing with different parcels of real estate now in different markets. What are you finding in the real estate trends, and how is that impacting the design of your units?
Well, with respect to trends, I mean, we still fundamentally rely on some of the same drivers, which are, we're looking to be near multifamily housing, which typically holds millennials and Gen Z, higher disposable income. But we look for an adjacency as well to a central business district. Approximately 30% of our aggregate sales come from corporate events. By contrast, some of the, all of our competitors in our subcategory rely on closer to 50% corporate events, or greater in some instances. Because we're a scratch kitchen and craft beverage orientation, our primary business is still a la carte folks right off the street. If you overbook in corporate events, that you start to alienate those guests. So we really look for that balance between CBDs and multifamily density. But in terms of other data that we rely on, we work with a company called eSites, which does a very good job of triangulating credit card data, so we know exactly who our customer is, what their typical spend is, what their frequency is inside of our venue. And then we triangulate that against mobile data, which will tell us the typical drive time for our guests, not how far they'll come, right? How long they'll spend in their car, because drive time is 20 miles is very different in Dallas versus Denver versus Miami versus Atlanta, right? So how many minutes will they spend in their car to get to us, right? So then we can develop what our quartiles are and determine, what our potential revenue is for a new location.
Where is your next opening?
The next one is in Milwaukee. We're opening up with the Milwaukee Bucks in their new arena. I am never thought I would say this, but I'm very happy the Milwaukee Bucks are in first place in the Eastern Conference right now. Prior to that, I couldn't tell you if they even made the playoffs. So I'm pretty excited to get open on March 9th for a long playoff run. But then we're opening. This is our most aggressive growth year to date. We'll open up 8 units this year. Right after Milwaukee, we do Dallas, and then we do a small box in Fort Worth, another small box in Salt Lake City. We're doing something here in Miami in the Wynwood Arts District.
That's cool.
Yeah, we're excited about that. And then DC Ballpark, it's about a half block off of where the Washington Nationals play. So it's an assertive year for us.
When did your first unit open?
2012.
And between 2012 and the Milwaukee opening, what would you say the biggest change in the facility has been? What has been the biggest evolution for the brand?
We have not, it's strange to say, but I'm not saying we can't get better, but we got it right on Unit 1. We have not reprogrammed substantially anything in the box. We know that when you walk into a Punchbowl Social, it's easy for a consumer in a new market to understand that you could come in and you can get a craft beverage and you can come and you can play a game. The thing that is unusual in our subcategory is for someone to have the emphasis on the culinary that does Punchbowl. And so when you walk in, we force you to walk through our dining room, a dessert case, an open kitchen, all these things that eventually after the third time you walk in, you go, what the hell did I just walk by? I think that's a kitchen. There are people over there eating, right? And so over time, our food sales tick up and up from there. So we haven't changed a lot. We are doing some new things with technology. We're self-developing this dart scoring tech, and we added a puck club in last year. But we're pretty stable in the program.
Where is this unit that's on the screen? Do you know?
That's Rancho Cucamonga in Southern California.
And what would you say some of the design elements are that really scream Punchbowl Social?
Well, we have 5 elements. That's Putt Club. That's in Cleveland, where we just opened up. That's the first putting facility. We can do 9 holes in 2,000 square feet. Punchbowl Socials are something we refer to as dirty modern in design. It's Mountain Lodge, industrial, mid-century modern, and only because I'm on stage, I can't remember the fourth design, industrial, mid-century, and Mountain Lodge, if I didn't say that already. The fifth one is something that is a variable. We always customize something for the market that we're in. So if you asked me what we were looking at, I would say dirty modern, and most people would say, I don't know what the hell that is, but I think it's, it's kind of like a platypus. It has a place in nature, I just don't know where.
Raise your hand if you've got a question. I'm going to lob one here at Denny. We were talking about real estate.
Yes.
For a more legacy brand, what are the trends that you're looking at in real estate?
Well, of course, again, speaking about how casual dining developed, we tended to develop as part of retail power centers, which may or may not be powerful anymore. In fact, most cases aren't. So our biggest challenge is the 17%, 16% or so of our asset base that is in enclosed malls. And truly is, we were talking about before, truly relies on the captive traffic because very few people are going to make Red Robin a destination if they have to deal with the hassle of dealing with the mall. So we're looking at really trying to leverage, the challenges there to lower our occupancy, in some cases exit the units. If I pull up and I see a JCPenney at one end and a Macy's at the other, or worse yet, a Sears, our time is limited. And so we are really working hard to reduce occupancy cost, limit the life of our leases, go dark if needed, because those units are not going to benefit from the growth in off-premise. There is no guest who is going to hassle with the mall to get out and come in and get to go. And back to third party, talk about your way to get pushed down that algorithm is when you have all that between you and the guest as well. So it's really difficult to maximize unit volume when you're trapped in an enclosed mall. So I would say that's the biggest. It doesn't mean the ring around the mall, the freestanding pads continue to do fairly well because they're generally pretty accessible. We've tried to make enclosed malls more kind of catering engines, and that works to a certain extent, but you still have to deal with the hassle of getting out of the unit, and it just isn't easy. So I would say from a real estate asset perspective, malls are the biggest challenge we've got.
I think it's interesting, though, on your side that, because we're a growth brand and we've only been around since 2012, when we say go dark on a site, right, that's sort of catastrophic for us. You guys are a legacy brand, and when you go dark on a site, you get your return on invested capital decades ago in some instances, right? It's just an opportunity to redeploy human assets and, create more bench strength by moving people over. So.
Well, and wherever we can do a relocation, we try to do so. Wherever we can try to capture traffic, we really leave a market entirely. We actually had a franchisee close in Tucson not long ago, re-entered the market, and boy, we got lines out the door. So there's a lot of pent-up demand for it. Yeah. So.
And Geoff, from a real estate perspective for Wowbow, you're going into a lot of airports. Does that pose a special problem?
We really like the airport business. We are in 3 airports right now. We have 4 or 5 lined up for this coming year, and our goal is to do quite a bit more in the coming years. The problem that I have with the airport is we do exceptionally well in Reagan Airport in DC in 300 square feet. We have opened in Cleveland Airport at 1,400 square feet with a 40-seat dining room. And we are opening up a few other airports this year that are just larger than who we are. So now we're adding in a bar, right? Everyone wants, the airport business loves to have alcohol sales, so we're okay with it. But it's making us rethink our design and our flow. So that's the challenge we're facing right now. But the airport business.
Do breakfast as well?
We actually always have had breakfast as a component for a while now. We have a nice small breakfast menu that does very well for us. It's just having a box bigger than what you normally do. Our first unit opened in 2003 at 384 square feet. Our second unit opened at 2,200, then we went to 18, and then we did the next 3 at about 1,000. And I think 800 to 1,100 is really our sweet spot for company-owned. And the airports, we're pretty good We can be fully self-sufficient in about 600 square feet. Little off-site storage, we can get down to 200 to 300 square feet. We like the small box.
I can't figure out how to make a handicap stall in 300 square feet. I'm just like, I'm gonna fall out of my chair listening to this conversation.
I'll share that secret one day.
Yeah. No. Patent it first and then tell me all about it.
There's a lot of drawbacks there. For the standalone units, the one outside of airports, what are you looking for in real estate, and how do you see the design adapting to that?
So our goal is to do, in major markets, we want to do 600 to 700 people a day. So what you need is, obviously, you need queuing area. You need an area for some people to eat. We're about 50% takeout, 50% dine-in. And we definitely skew heavier during the lunchtime hours, so more CBD area. But to hit those kind of numbers, we definitely need some kind of a nighttime business. We need to factor in for those third-party delivery drivers how they're getting in, where they're picking up. So there's a number of different factors. When we're building, if you're only building 600 or 700 square feet, you don't have a lot of room to do anything, especially when your kitchen requires almost half the space. So as I said, by us shrinking that kitchen, we're trying to find little pockets. Having these kiosks also becomes a challenge. As we grow the concept, we're going to do more like our traditional models where we'll have a cash register, one cook, and either an expediter, so we might go to 3 people as opposed to the 2 we're running now. I do want to bring back that walk-up counter service more than the cubbies. So now you have to create a queue line at the register and create a queue line at the kiosks. We'll have both. So it's a little bit difficult to try to manipulate it. I'm confident we'll figure it out, but it's growing pains.
For comparison purposes, average employees at your units?
At my units? I think you're about to make fun of me. That's
Somewhere north of 2.
More than 2.
Yeah, labor is the biggest challenge for, I mean, that's the thing hanging over all our heads. 50% of our business comes out of 5 Western states with $15 on the books and non-tip credit states. So it's a real challenge for us. But yeah, we run with about, I think it's an average of a staff of about 65 to 85 per unit. Now, actually, on a shift, you're going to have anywhere from 12 to 15 in the restaurant. So, and again, depending on on our volumes, higher than that. We can have 12 in the front of the house just waiting tables, depending on the size of our units. Yeah. So, but it's interesting the difference between, people who want to interact with humans, like Robert represents, and folks who only want to deal with technology and are very happy if they can get their food and never have to make eye contact. And we're kind of trying to balance between both of what these guys are doing. And yeah, I don't know whether it's generational or attitudinal or occasional. If it's about occasion, we're trying to figure that out and meet both needs.
What technological bells and whistles might you have in your units to kind of make the labor equation go smoother?
We have not, we haven't developed anything right from a labor standpoint other than the same technology we're all using with hot schedules and trying to be, efficient with that, and then internal development of labor models, but I wouldn't call that a technology. That's still good old fashioned, mouse brain processing in the background, trying to figure out how do we deploy our labor model across unit by unit.
We have pay at the table, which the guest adores because they're in control of their departure. We have handhelds being deployed for our team members so that they can never leave the floor, ideally, and a new service partner model that will support that. Fire to the kitchen right away as opposed to going back to the POS and entering 3 tables worth at a time, which we think will be terrific. And then ultimately, our online ordering system is critical. I keep saying to the team, it needs to be as intuitive as the best server table side. And then needs to be able to store and save that so that the guest can simply push repeat. And so those are the things I think that are making a difference for us, but not unusual in the industry.
It's harder for us to go to those just because during high season on a weekend night we may have 100 employees working at the same time, right? So for us to make that CapEx investment into pay at the table, it's a bigger deal for us. Although it's inevitable. We'll have to do it. We'll have to make the investment to lower on labor, and so it's coming.
And what is high season for you? Holidays?
Well, that's the peak of the high season, but you know, typically our games are indoor sports. So when it's cold outside, we're busier. So we have about 8 months of the year that are the busiest times. When it's really nice and you want to go outside and enjoy your time at a lake, like in Minneapolis, there's a lot of lakes around there. That's the slower time of the year.
The 2 months you'd go outside.
Yeah, the 2 months it's not snowing.
Any questions from the audience? Yes. The question was, what is the liquor-food ratio today versus what you'd like it to be?
Yeah, so we live approximately 50% beverage, which is, it really sort of overshadows how much food we sell, right? But we just happen, but you have to remember, so we have all these traditional service periods that all of us in the industry have. We just have this extra one that lasts from 11 p.m. till 2 a.m., right? And it's very helpful, right, to add on. It's like a free service period each day that occurs. But we'd like I'm not so worried about my food to beverage ratio. Honestly, I'd rather tick up my gaming because we're 89% food and beverage. I'd actually like to, without giving up any sales, I'd like to increase my gaming to approximately 3 more %. I can drive an entire margin point to my bottom line if I increase my gaming sales by 3%.
Given this audience, I'm going to ask each of you, what thing keeps you up at night that they might be able to make your life easier? Geoff?
Well, it keeps me up at night. I don't think anyone here can help me with that. That's more about people. When you're trying to grow a business, it's having the right people in the right places and, making sure that your teams you're taking care of. I think that from a design standpoint and a real estate standpoint is if you have a really good location that you want to share, by all means, pass it on to us. I'll ask for that. And we're not at the point yet, but we soon are going to probably be looking for a designer to come in-house to help us come up with, the box. Right now, we're sort of shooting from the cuff on every opportunity that we get about how to lay it out, what should our colors be. Somebody told me I'm embryonic. I have 7 company-owned stores, 3 airports, and a college campus, so we're at 11 total. So that I can change things on the fly. I can just blow up the concept and do something different, and it really won't impact how people view us. I don't know if I agree with that, but I know that we need to come up with exactly, a square versus a rectangle and 600 versus 1,200 square feet and really come up with who we are and what elements are important to us and what elements we haven't thought of yet, so.
Robert, what solutions would make your sleep firmer and deeper?
The things that keep me up at night are actually, if my wife was here, she'd cut my head off and put it in a bowl of formaldehyde or something for saying this, but it's, so we were just in Fast Company's 50 most innovative companies in the world. And the first thing out of my mouth after we won that is, what are we going to do this year so that we're higher up on that list? Right, and so we'll do things like, this year we're going to sign our first punchable social hotel so that we can continue to pivot into a lifestyle brand orientation for our customers and continue to be regarded as a lifestyle, not just the typical F&B experience. So it's innovation. It's always trying to stay ahead, to figure out the new angle that'll propel us and differentiate us against the rest of the category.
And where will that be, and which brand are you going with? The hotel?
No, it'll be a punchable social hotel.
Oh, the
branded.
hotel.
Yeah, punchable social hotel.
Where is that going to be?
We're negotiating a deal now in New Orleans that we think might get done. I've been working on this for about 2 years, but this year's the deal that after we won the award, I called my real estate guy and I said, time's up.
Time to pull the trigger.
Yeah.
Denny, what keeps or would make you feel better?
Biggest opportunity in terms of design and space is space utilization and flexibility. So if I can find a way that it can operate at one time as a guest-facing section of the restaurant and another as an area where you could be assembling or dealing with catering or other things. So how do we create flexible use space within the existing asset that we have? And I'm most concerned, our catering business is on fire, and my biggest concern is we're going to cap our potential by our existing design. And so I'm looking for opportunities to think of space very differently and flex it back and forth for whatever demand exists at the time. So I don't know what that exactly means, but think of it as the convertible couch of restaurants. I need a couch that converts to a bed and then back. And if we can figure that out in some way, then we'll make better use of the square footage we have and be able to maximize our opportunities.
What is the square footage range for your existing units now?
We're on average about 5,200. We go up to as high as I'm looking at it. We've probably got some, what we call our snowflake restaurants, the old ones that are 7,500 square feet. We've tried a mid-size unit at about 4,000, 4,200. But again, the kitchen takes up half of it. It caps our volumes in terms of being able to seat the number of guests we need to seat between 5 and 6 p.m. and just wasn't a good use for us. So again, 5,200 is about our sweet spot. I just need to be able to use it more flexibly.
Flexibility seems to be a big word.
Yes.
So, that is it for us. I'm not sure, Michael or Jason?
I'm over here. Yeah, unfortunately, we're out of time, but I want to thank you guys for an excellent, very candid discussion. Appreciate that, for taking the time to be here with us.